Hi people, welcome to Blue UK Jazz Dance. This is me. I'm just working on my UK Jazz Dance leadership program, and one of the key things I'm identifying to individuals that a leader should learn the ability to articulate the art form they're involved in. They should have an understanding of the culture, the heritage, the history, the background, and what's important, the legacies, achievements, benefits, the accomplishments of yourself as a leader. And what I want to make people know, I'm a pioneer of UK Jazz Dance. I'm an innovator of my own learning, training, development. I'm one of the pioneers. And one of the things I want to share with people, many dancers kept their art form alive, by overcoming adversity. I had a lot of setbacks in respect to this art form. One, from the beginning, people, wider cultures identified it was insignificant, it was fad, insignificant, not worthy of research. It wasn't equal to Western dance, and tried to put me off doing it in many different ways as an individual, and basically they stopped it socially in clubs. So this is what happened. They stopped playing the music, so the art form could not exist no more. Basically, ironically, for me, I believed in my art form and I practiced at home anyway, because basically people know the culture of the dance started from our homes, from West Indians and African homes. We were dancing to jazz music from a young age already, so you couldn't it was up to a dancer what they did. Now I was one of the dancers that traveled up and down the country. I was known as a club trailblazer, disco trailblazer, party trailblazer. I found every place that gave us an opportunity to dance to this music, and I introduced it to other people. So I was known as a club trailblazer, a fashion trailblazer, a record trailblazer. I used to buy the records and sell the records to people. I used to research records. I was an individual that wore vintage clothes, and I sold vintage clothes, and I redesigned vintage clothes, and I designed clothes for people. I was an individual that introduced people to the culture, the lifestyle, the active lifestyle that was involved. It was a sporty one. I was an individual that explored a wider range of different cultures and dances to inform my dancing as an individual. But one of the key things as a leader, I say, you have to have the ability to articulate your culture first. So one of the key things I had from the beginning, I created a project called DSJ, and I recognized that what our overcoming adversity, keeping this art form alive, was similar to the vernacular jazz dancers, tap dancers, the jazz dancers of the day, ragtime, etc. And so there's a great couple, they're gone now, one guy called, a great dancer of Lindy Hop called Frankie Manning, and his partner Norma Miller. Frankie Manning was dancing, he died about 90, just after 90 years old, and he as an individual showed adversity, overcome many battles in respect to keep his art form alive. Racism, the academic world actually criticized his art form as being something that drives you crazy. It shapes negative characters. But his tenacity, his ability to overcome adversity, the challenges he faced, and Norma Miller, they went around the world, spread this art form around the world. That's what they did. And with their belief, this art form is something, and we're going to keep this art form alive. You should hear Norma Miller. She talks about, what would you do? This is the greatest art form in the world, and we want to share it. And they talked about the importance of what they had to do they had to be daring to share this, because people tried to kill them. You have to understand. And that they were sharing, they were caring. And one of the key things about a leader, one of the things I want to share with individuals is my legacy of leadership is one of the things I really work on, because through that, I'm able to share with you the adversity. My legacy can only be shared with you through me sharing my adversity. And what happened, I talk about the misrepresentation, one of my things in sense of my UK Jazz Dance leadership. I'm one of the key people that constantly talks about this art form now and then has been misrepresented, how it evolved. It's been misinterpreted, and it's been misinterpreted because the voice of it has been Eurocentric writers who didn't have an interest in wanting the positives of this art form to be known. Because what happens is, this art form, 99.9% of the visuals on video and film is hidden. 99.9% of all the paraphernalia has been hidden, just like the Black Victorian age has been hidden. Do you understand? So people could not know the legacy of the dancers, not know how they overcame adversity, because this is one of the dances, just like ragtime, just how tap's still alive, because you need to understand how tap is still alive. People had to overcome adversity to keep tap alive. They had to overcome adversity to keep jazz alive. You need to understand they had to overcome adversity to keep hip-hop alive. They had to come adversity to keep just black music alive. If you know anything about the history of people trying to kill the music, kill the cultures, debasing the musicians, debasing who they were academically, in education, in the commercial industries is important, and or trying appropriating our culture and changing it. Prime example is Cuban music, Cuban dancing and music. The Latin American music was watered down to have a Western perspective, to say this is how the music is, this is how the poor people's music is. We refined it. It was unrefined in its raw base from a folkloric perspective. It's important people understand. So if you know rumba in ballroom terms and rumba from Cuban folklorico, they're totally two different dances. And you have to understand what Europeans tried to do. What Europeans tried to do was wipe out the folkloric, and what people had to do to keep the folkloric art form alive. They traveled the world sharing it with people. This is one of the key things, how an art form's kept alive. And they found out what happens from that perspective. You find that other cultures embrace and have a bigger respect for your art form. They give you an opportunity to share it than the country that you live in, which is very important. And so one of the things about UK jazz dance, the epic centre for it is not my country, Britain. Manchester had an amazing scene. The north of England, they made a scene. That scene does not exist. But it wasn't a scene, it was a culture, it was a lifestyle and movements. They're gone. What happened in 1986, because of the film Absolute Beginners, the focal point, the epic centre came to be London, but that wasn't the focal point for it. It was the north of England till 86. A number of things happened. Absolute Beginners, a club called Berlin was lost. That was a #1 avant-garde club where collectors of music, collectors of jazz music, reggae, soul, fashion designers, dancers all went to this club. It was an avant-garde club that played 70% obscure jazz and 30% reggae soul. It was a club that inspired men and women to dance. Music in Manchester, they had the music policy to play for women and men. That was one of the things that we had, and it was throughout the north of England. And if you know the history of the north of England, you'll know there was a strong history of dance between males and females from the beginning. And so they talk a lot about that because of the Industrial Revolution. So you had women doing hornpipe, which is seen as a seaman dance. Women did every dance that men did in the north of England. It's important that people understand, down to Morris dancing, which was seen as a male thing, that females always became a part of their involvement. And this movement, UK jazz dance, was a movement that involved females. And what happened, we've had Eurocentric writers write on it from a perspective that females were not involved in it. They were involved in it. It's important. And how they've done that is because they've done in the writing, but secondly because they've not talked about our culture. Our culture, when UK jazz dance was happening, it wasn't in a space where just that music was playing. It was in a space, it was part of a bigger culture, which is a soul, disco, funk, if it was in the town centre. But even the African Caribbean communities, African community was part of a bigger culture, part of calypso, limbo. It was part of soul, funk, disco, reggae, lovers rock, ska, rocksteady, R&B. If People Got Me, it was part of a bigger culture. So I said, it's been misrepresented by Eurocentric writers who haven't written in our culture of the art form within our communities. They've written it from the town centre, which socially excluded us from having opportunities to bring our full culture into the town centre. We only brought snippets of it.